Hey, man. I'm gonna let the people trickle in. Trickle. So I got I didn't get Red Dead Online, but I got Red Dead.
Oh, Red Dead Online is fun, man. We gotta do that. You'll love it.
I think I will.
It gets goony. It is a really good time. Okay, now we're to Discord.
I know I saw you doing the what's it called? The RP. That was funny as hell. You didn't even RPing. I think you were just playing with your buddy playing poker. That was funny.
Yeah, oh god.
I tell you what, I was like, oh, there he is, doing his thing.
God, we were just laughing. Like, that's one of my best friends ever, and like we've known each other since like middle school. Like, and
I was just thinking about him, like just his content, the way he was talking, it was just busting me up, dude.
Those guys are so funny. You never know what they're gonna say. Like, you're just like, wait, what? Like,
that was a good time.
Yeah, I kind of want to do a Red Dead stream probably tonight for a little bit.
Red Dead, but poker again online.
Yeah.
I might have to do that. I might have to do what, $5?
I mean, poker is like you just gotta get your stuff, and then the poker in Red Dead is, I mean, it's fun, but like you can get into like some like big money pots too once you like build up like a bunch of cash in the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that game it's something else.
Nice.
And the thing is like everyone thinks it's about to die, and then like Rockstar does something with it, and they're like, "Oh, I'm back!" Like that game's never gonna die. Tyler, let's welcome back upstairs. Saw you went live, so I turned it on and went back to my computer.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Thank you for the host light. Alright, let me get this guy going here. Almost done here. CDM is getting me revved up, though. I'll say that.
What other sports do you watch, man?
I watch a lot of baseball now.
A lot of baseball?
We're in that season, so yeah. I'm a big Red Sox fan.
I like the Red Sox too.
Do you?
I'm not a number one fan, but I like the Red Sox, except when they play the Angels. But hey, that's okay.
They've been my team since I was 10 years old, so. Sounds good, Ty.
How did I end up liking the Red Sox? I guess how do you not like the Red Sox, right?
Well, I can see why you wouldn't want to like them. I mean, to be honest.
Dodgers, baby, get out of here.
Who said Dodgers? What's up, James?
That's my boy, the chicken. My boy Chicken over here.
Ask him about the Dodgers ask him about the history of late with the Dodgers and the Red Sox.
Oh, he knows. It's been a long time coming for LA.
No, they deserved it. They deserved it.
Come on, man. Kershaw finally has a ring after all the shit talking. Kershaw didn't have that ring.
Yeah, they did deserve it. It was
all right. Let me really recap this. The reason why I really dislike the Dodgers is because I went to an Angels game. This guy knows too. I was working with him. What's it called? I got really drunk at at an Angels-Dodgers game. Me and my boys, we go wild at these Angels-Dodgers games. We're cross-city rivals, right?
Yeah.
I got fined. I got a public intoxication ticket at the Angels game. Are you kidding me? And they said, you got to throw out the rest of your beer. I go, you already gave me a ticket. I'm not throwing this beer out.
Oh, boy.
I chugged it. I killed those right in front of the officer on the horse. Oh, man. and then I so messed up that night. I call out of work the next morning.
Were you on TV?
Boss goes, "What's happened? Why are you feeling? Are you okay?" I go, "I'm good. I'm good." My old boss name's Carlos. You know, I'm good, Carlos. I just had a lot to drink last night at the Angels versus Dodgers game. He goes, "Oh, no worries, my man. Recover. I'll see you the next day."
I wish.
and then I present him with, "I had a good time." He goes, "Yeah, how'd you have a good time?" And then I showed him my ticket. He goes, "My man, you got a ticket for having a good time?" I go, "I did." How dare they? He said.
How dare
they ticket? Yeah, I mean, so he goes, "All right, when that official ticket comes in, just let me handle it for you." I go, "Are you kidding me?
Dang!
Are you kidding me?" I love that guy. He handled my public intoxication ticket. I'm not ashamed.
What a hero!
What a hero! I would go to war for that guy.
No kidding. God, I wish I had one boss like that. But
Legendary.
One time I was working at I used to work at a grocery store for like all throughout high school, and I did good there. I worked part time, had a job since I was 14. And what happened was we would do stupid stuff in the background of the store when like all of our jobs were done. Like we've rotated the truck, we've done everything, we've restocked all the fruit that you could have there, and it's all ready to go. And we would take like these empty banana boxes and we would take saran wrap and we would make like a volleyball.
Yeah.
And we would like be in the back, dude, just doing the dumbest things like ever.
That's some back of the house stuff right there.
And we were like just messing around, and then my boss walked in. One day we were doing it, and he like walked in. He had no words, and he's just like, "Is all your guys' stuff done?" And we're like, "Yeah." He's like, "Don't get caught doing this." By the bigger bosses, I was like, "Yes, sir."
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it was a fun job. All right, let's get rolling, though.
Let's roll, man. Let's roll.
All right. Let's turn pretzel bot down here real quick. Welcome in, guys. Welcome into Nerd Sports on episode 4 with John and Mike. We're going to be discussing some interesting topics today in terms of touching on the Browns, the Baker Mayfield, some of the trades that they've made recently. The Chiefs bolstering their offensive line after they looked pretty desolated at it when free agency first started this year. We have some retirement people to talk about that they're hanging up the cleats, along with Drew Brees, and then also we have some interesting Hall of Fame discussion to bring up because I've seen it going around media for the past 3-4 days of what we're going to do in terms of Hall of Fame and what really earns your way into Hall of Fame, or how many rings you need to have for it, or stats. So we're going to kind of break that down, and then we will do some fantasy aspect to get ready for our draft in August, to talk about that and to see what's going on. We also are going to talk about the rule change with the jersey numbers and all that fun stuff. So it's going to be a good time. So with that being said, let's bring in John.
Hey. What's up, man?
What's good?
Are you ready? There's a lot to address.
There is a lot to address. What do you want to start with?
That's a great question. Where do we?
You call your shot.
Okay. And I want to kind of save Trey Lance. I got a lot of questions on Trey Lance, so I'm gonna save that for later.
Absolutely.
I guess let's start off with the big one. Just most recently, we got the Orlando Brown to the Chiefs.
Let's do it.
So the Great Wall of Kansas City.
I have a graphic for that we just pulled up before when we were prepping. So this is just kind of a meme for it, but the Great Wall of Kansas City, it says Mahomes pass protection in 2020, and then Mahomes pass protection in 2021. It's pretty good. Whoever made that meme, I wish I could give credit to him, but well done on that. That is actually really funny. So that's what we're gonna call it on Nerd Sports Zone, is the Great Wall of Kansas City. I think going forward.
This point, man, it's huge. It's a huge wall.
This is what we're looking at for 2021 for the Chiefs. I have a graphic of what was the projected O-line, and this has actually happened now. I'll cover my face up here. This is from Nate Baylor via Twitter. It says, "This is how I project the Chiefs' offensive line turnout for 2021. Left tackle is Orlando Brown Jr., which did happen. He's Serge Durant. Left guard is Joe Tooney, which did happen, and Andrew Wiley. Center, Austin Blythe and Nick Allegretti. Right guard is LDT and Kyle Long. Right tackle, Lucas Niang and Mike Remmers." This has happened. This is their offensive line, I believe.
That's a monster.
That is a big line. I think they really took it serious after the Super Bowl loss.
Yeah.
We talked about that game quite a bit, and just all that Patrick Mahomes did during it. I mean, he ran for like almost 500 yards, 497 yards or something like that.
For what?
But for scrimmage, and then he made these crazy vertical throws that like no one can make. So I was happy to see that they really invested back into their offensive line, and being like, hey, like if we're gonna get pressured like this and we're exposed, as you said, the Chargers did expose them on how to beat the Chiefs. They did, and the Patriots. I see Tom Brady, and I think of Patriots right away because I'm still not used to it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they took notes and they rushed that line and rushed them, and they won the Super Bowl. There's been some just really interesting. There's some good Twitter conversation going on between Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Have you seen any of that?
No, I haven't seen any of that.
Somebody was saying, I have it on my phone here. I'll just pull it up. Yeah, it was pretty good. Let me see here. I'm pretty sure I screenshotted it. Yeah, that is a stout offensive line. While I'm looking for this, what are your thoughts on that offensive line?
Well, let's just look at what they had to give up to get Orlando Brown Jr. So they gave up their 31st pick in the NFL draft this year, which is, I mean, it's fine. I'm cool with that move. You're addressing a need, and they're still getting a young talent in Orlando Brown Jr. So a first-round pick, 31st pick, I don't think I think that's well played. You give up a third, a fourth, and a 2022 fifth-round pick. That's not a lot. You know, just the way they're situationally sitting, like playoff berths, they got a lot of. I think they did well. He's young. He's going to do them well. He's going to protect Patrick Mahomes. And then pulling up your last graphic, they have depth. And you need depth. And you see what happens when you don't. You don't have no protection around Patrick Mahomes. You're running 500 scrimmage yards for what? That score was terrible. That's
right.
That's not the Kansas City offense that we know. They're high momentum, putting up points. You have to keep up with them usually. So kudos to them addressing their needs. If that's my organization, you love to see it.
It was smart. It's just straight. You can't make any better decision than that to do that. And I am very happy that they decided to like look at their problem and go, what do we got to do to fix this? And they fixed it. I didn't save the pictures of it, but there was some. There was a player that tweeted at Tom Brady, and I think it was possibly Honey Badger. And he said, actions speak louder than words. If it wasn't Honey Badger, I can't remember who it was.
Okay, I think I remember that.
But they said most people say actions speak louder than words, but I think words speak louder than actions. Tom Brady said something back to him, and then Patrick Mahomes said to him, "We'll see in 20 years."
Ooh, that's bold. That's a bold statement.
Yeah, and because what people don't realize is Patrick Mahomes is actually on pace to outdo Tom Brady if he has a career as long as Tom Brady, which is tough to do. I mean, but it's not impossible.
Not if Justin Herbert has anything to do about it.
I mean, he can. There's a lot of these young guys that are coming out of nowhere. So
young talent, man. They're like it's nice. It's fresh to see. There's a lot of good talent coming in the NFL right now. Young quarterbacks who are really putting their hats in for, I'm the quarterback to beat. And that's fun. It's fun to see.
So speaking of quarterbacks, let's talk about Alex Smith here.
Yeah.
So first, before we jump into anything bad, there is a graph that I snagged here. If I can get the. Okay, here we go. Washington football team did a really nice image of Alex Smith. I couldn't find anything of his stats. If you want to look those up, John.
Pull those up.
Yeah, we can pull those up. But they did
career stats.
Yeah, just do his career stats, and it says Alex Smith, San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs, and the Washington football team. I feel like out of all the teams that kind of did this guy wrong, was 100% the 49ers when Colin Kaepernick got the start over him one good game. I still think that was a mistake, but he went to the Washington football team and he really proved himself that he's a strong individual, and I really hope that they change the name of the trophy to the Alex Smith Award and not the Comeback Player of the Year Award, because he defied all odds. He almost died from 17 surgeries that he had. Almost lost his leg, and here he played one final year in the NFL. So congratulations to him. Congrats to him. And Andy Reid had some nice words to say about him as well too. I thought that was a really nice thing. Before I pull up the other thing, this is what Andy Reid had to say about him when he did announce his retirement. Let's see here. I think I have it in Discord, actually. Let's go to here. Yeah, right here. It says, Andy Reid on Alex Smith's retirement. He's a heck of a person. He had a great career. Everywhere he went, he made them better. If he gets into coaching, I'll get first dibs on him. He's a good guy, and you love to have him on your staff. A special person, and one of my all-time favorites. And then Patrick Mahomes chimed in on him as well and had nothing but humble words to say about him.
That was his backup, right?
Yep.
Damn.
Patrick was his backup in KC before he got the start. Some of the really nice things that we got to see was Julian Edelman, who we're going to talk about later. One of the most inspiring comebacks we've ever seen. Congrats on the career at Alex Smith _11. JJ Watts had heck of a career pre-injury, legendary status post, absolutely incredible comeback. A picture of determination, perseverance, and sheer will. Thanks for the inspiration and the best wishes on to the next chapter.
Wow.
Frank Gore said, blessed to start this at NFL journey with Alex Smith. Pound sign quarterback 1. Wishing you and the fam all the best.
What a guy.
And then Chase Young had to say about him, one of the best leaders I have ever been under. It was a blessing to be your teammate.
Wow. 1 year.
1 year with him. What else? There was one Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes said, he helped me to become the quarterback that I am today.
Dang.
So
stop.
Just some really great things that they had to say about Alex. I wanted to just get that covered before we actually went into the next subject. And I don't know how much truth there is to this, but this I didn't tell John about this until we started. He hasn't even heard this yet. So,
if you want to go over career stats real quick.
Yeah, go over that first.
All right, 35,000 passing yards. A little over. 199 touchdowns, 109 interceptions in how many seasons? how many seasons? Since 2005 up to 2020. So 15?
15 years.
15 years? That's almost 200 touchdowns. That's going to sting a bit. Looking back at that, that's going to sting him a little bit. I didn't have 200 touchdowns. It's okay, though.
That's impressive, though, still.
Yeah. Good stuff right there, man.
I couldn't do it.
No, I couldn't either. I'd probably hit the handoff. I'll be lucky to hit that.
I hit that pitch to the right side and hope it goes well.
We might not, but go ahead. Let's see what's the story, man.
One of the interesting leads that came out from the media. From I'm gonna cover both of us up here for a second.
That's okay. Let's read it. Alex Smith is speaking out against his former team. He claims he was patronized during his comeback season with Washington, and the staff never believed in him or wanted him to play. Smith says they made him do extra drills and workouts, which he believes were just trying to break him, and they just wanted a good story. Smith's dad went as far as saying the coaching staff sabotaged him. Ron Rivera, the head coach, defended his staff by saying they were just scared to death to play him. Okay.
Now, I don't know how much of that's true, and I really don't want to think that most of it's true, because Alex Smith, I think he's an understanding player that, with him, his situation was really difficult because he was coming off of a major injury, not like an ACL tear or something. Like, it was...
Yeah, he broke a bone in his leg. Yeah,
and he tore everything. The leg snapped, like, it was bad, and like for him to even come back was insane, because literally people don't even know this still. He almost lost his leg. He had like 17 surgeries, and he still found a way to rehab and get back on the field. And I really don't think Alex is angry towards the team. That Facebook page I just stumbled over. It's called The Real Football Talk or something like that. And I don't know how credible their sources are either, but I just thought it was an interesting thing as I saw it throughout the week. But so before I finish my answer, what do you think? Like, do you think I don't
know how credible this football talk is either, but it sounds like I think you're trying to push a narrative that isn't there or shouldn't necessarily be there. If it is true that, he feels like they really wanted him to just quit, I kind of stand with Ron Rivera on. I would be scared to play him too. This man's life is in my hands.
For real.
But do you remember that game? Do you remember that game he went in?
Yeah.
He went against Aaron Donald. That was the first person he had to play against. That's terrifying. No way am I want to playing Alex Smith. And then I saw within the first series, he's getting his back ridden on by Aaron Donald. I was freaking out.
Yeah, when he got hit, I was actually really scared. I was like, this is it right here, You
got to face Aaron Donald as your first snap back. Like, oh, God. So, kudos to Alex Smith. I hope the narrative isn't true, because, it's Alex Smith. I have a lot of respect for him, especially the way I think San Fran will never... that letdown when they replaced him, that was the biggest I felt for that guy in the hardest way. I was like, dude, that sucks so bad. You got your team there. You got some guy carried them through the playoffs, but then you got replaced. That's cold-hearted.
That's how I felt about it too, and I still stand on it. Like, my friends and I were talking about a lot of that when that was going down, and I was like, how can you replace a guy like Alex Smith, who's been very successful for this football team, based off of a concussion, and you get a younger guy that goes in, and you could say that Colin Kaepernick did well and took him to the Super Bowl that year, and there's a lot of arguing points on both sides, but I feel like Alex Smith didn't do necessarily anything to lose the job, and when they replaced him, I thought that was very unfair and very unprofessional, and but it worked out because he got to go to some other teams and Kansas City, but then Patrick Mahomes came around, and
it's another tragedy. Like, it's a shame it had to be Patrick Mahomes.
And the difference between you get a guy like you get the comparison of, Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. Well, now it's like he definitely should have kept the starting job, in my opinion. And Colin's a good quarterback. I'm not going to say he's a bad quarterback. He's a great quarterback. Did a lot of great things in the league. But, like, I definitely would have started Alex Smith over Colin Kaepernick. But then going into the Chiefs situation where you guys get a young stud from out of college and
he just drop bombs.
And then he has to go in and play at the end of the season, and he crushes it. And the guy's had nothing but success since he started as the official lead quarterback for the team. And just hearing the comments that Patrick had about Alex Smith and how they helped make him who he was as a quarterback was really nice to hear. And I'm glad Mahomes is as humble as he is. It seems like a good kid with a good head on his shoulders that hasn't let money and fame get into his head of who he is. And he signed that big $10 million contract, but he's already restructured it once to keep some guys around. So
team's taking notes. He's taking notes from the GOAT.
Yep, exactly. Yep.
He knows what's gonna take to win. Before we end the Alex Smith thing, I gotta talk about Colin Kaepernick real quick about for the people who say Colin Kaepernick is a bad quarterback or job replacement. I think for that time when he came in, I'll defend his starting role over there. At the time, the whole Wildcat quarterback was new to the league.
It was.
You had Russell Wilson, you had Cam Newton, who were the only real ones doing it at the time, scrambling really well. So situationally, it was a different pace that defenses weren't prepared for in the playoffs. So
it's very true.
I think it was just a new flavor, and defensive coordinators weren't sure how to attack it. So it looked good, but then as time goes on, people get more familiar with it. People see what works against that type of defense, and they stick to it. So if I'm playing this quarterback, we have to have that QB spy there. People get used to it. Defensive coordinators get used to it, and then people get run out. That's just my take.
It's 100% true what you're saying too, because no one had seen that style of quarterback play in quite a long time, actually. Back in the early days, of the NFL, you saw a lot more of it with Joe Montana, Steve Young type quarterback play, or Fran Tarkenton, you could say.
It was a pocket league,
right? But everyone else is pocket passers. They didn't scramble a whole lot like those guys did. So I think it was really interesting to. We saw some of it from Michael Vick and some of it from Steve McNair a little bit, but you didn't see it to this extent to where you could almost argue that it's taking over the league in a positive way, where all these young guys can scramble really well and they can also stay in the pocket really well too. We were talking about how Colin Kaepernick was kind of a big change in the NFL when he had the starting spot over Alex Smith in San Francisco. But I think that it was a change. It was a change in style of play, and I think that people say history repeats itself, and I think that is a true statement to an extent with certain things. And I think that Colin Kaepernick getting to come back and be that guy that kind of starts that up again, along with Cam Newton and so forth. Those guys kind of made that style of play relevant again, and now it's kind of taking the league by storm. Just look at how many young quarterbacks scramble every play now.
Right. But that's also the reason I think he won't come back to this league, is because it has kind of been solved. We know how to stop a running quarterback.
Yep.
Example, Patrick Mahomes. You put pressure on him. You do it well. And that's why I don't think Colin Kaepernick is back in the NFL, period. Is just because his quarterback play is not going to be up to the level of what it is now. What it was back then was different. Now, a few years later down the road, I think we solved it. And I'll be honest too, Lamar Jackson, if he's got to become a better pocket passer, if he wants to stay in this league.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson needs to do a lot of improvements. I sent my friend this really funny meme the other day when they were talking about all these offensive line moves that the Chiefs were making, and now they have really bolstered their offensive line, as we talked about earlier. And I sent my friend this meme, and it said Lamar Jackson just got mad and threw his phone at the wall and missed.
Oh, shoot.
Ronathan said Cap did have his moments in the NFL, and it's a shame that he got blackballed. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I agree. It doesn't help that he has Hollywood Brown and always overthrows. It doesn't help because he has Hollywood Brown and he always overthrows him.
Yeah, it's true.
It's true. It's extremely true. So I mean, Lamar has a lot of big steps to take. But one thing I want to say that's positive about Lamar Jackson is, with him and his situation of being being on the Ravens, it's not even a situation because they've always been a pretty decent football team every year. And I hope my friend hears this because he's a diehard Ravens fan. Is when the Chiefs absolutely spanked them in the first game last year. We all watched it together, and my friend was like, "I can't stand the Chiefs," and he knows I kind of like watching the Chiefs because of Mahomes now. And, I'm a fan of certain players now, and as I've gotten older, and I like watching Mahomes play. And I told my friend, I was like, "You can't get mad at the Chiefs because they are the superior team in these moments." And Lamar is missing big throws, and he's overthrowing people, and he's trying to scramble way too much when he doesn't have the offensive line to do it. But then at the end of this game, Lamar Jackson did say, he said, "We didn't deserve to win that game today. We have to do better to earn a second chance at playing these guys." Yeah. So, and it was pretty early on in the season, but it was really interesting to hear a quarterback say that when he has had a lot of doubt put on him in terms of, well, he's more of a running back. He's not, he's had a lot of things said about him, and for him to handle the media the way that he does, I think he's cut and dry, straight to the point, and he handles himself very, very well. Yeah, so. That's my thoughts on Lamar.
It's a better version of Lamar.
Kyler Murray's a stud. I agree. I think he can stand in the pocket. He's got a cannon, and I think Kyler Murray is in the 1 year we've seen him. I think I can agree with that. I think Kyler Murray is a little bit of a better version of Lamar coming out of college. So yeah, I agree with that. Let's talk some of the Browns, shall we?
Address the Browns.
Okay, so one of the contracts that we noticed, and then we'll go into the stuff that you sent me earlier about Baker Mayfield, was Jadeveon Clowney in his contract. So last year, let's backtrack. Last year, Jadeveon Clowney turned down a 3-year, $57 million deal from the Browns in the offseason. So instead, this year, he signs with the Titans. He recorded 0 sacks. He had a terrible year, which a lot of people actually predicted was going to happen with him. And instead, this year, he has 0 sacks, and he signs a 1-year, $10 million deal with the Browns this week. So I want to kind of talk about his worth as a defensive end at this point. I'm
gonna pull up his career stats if you don't mind.
Yeah, do it. I'll talk a little bit on it. One thing I find interesting is that he started off pretty good, and then he gets offered this big contract, and then he goes to a team like the Titans that is actually a playoff-ready team with Ryan Tannehill, and doesn't do squat last year, and so now his value as a defensive end has completely gone down. And he takes this really small deal with the Browns this year. I think I want to pose a question of what does he have to bring to the table to bring his value back up, and do you think it's possible for him to do it?
So he's been in the league 7 years.
Yep.
7 years. He's the first overall pick. Let's just put it that way.
He was.
So he has total career, let's see, Sacks, he has 32 sacks in 7 years. Not bad. Not great, not bad. I think we can find definitely younger talent who's like TJ Watt. That guy's a monster.
I'm gonna come from the opposite spectrum of what you're saying. Not to be argumentative, but
Go for it.
I think 7 years in the league and 32 sacks is terrible.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find a reason to root for him.
Yeah. I think it's a terrible number. Not just like NFL wise, but also fantasy wise. If you're in IDP leagues, I'm sorry. Like if I see anybody in my league draft him going into next year, I'm gonna laugh at them and be like, okay. And you know what? I would love for them to prove me wrong on that. And be like, he is the right pick, and this is why. And then he blows up that year. But there was a couple of weeks that I think me and you both tried out Jadeveon Clowney in fantasy, and he did nothing. Like we said, 0 sacks.
14 tackles last season. Let's just put it that way. 14 tackles.
So
that's less than a tackle a game.
Right. So
some games didn't even do anything.
So it's like I wonder if he feels. I'm sure he does. I mean, I wonder if he feels the pressure. Not NFL players don't care about fantasy value at the end of the day. They think it's a big joke. But for their own career, I wonder if he feels the pressure that is kind of on him to have a good year.
I hope so. There's a lot of hype coming out. All over one play too. All over one play against Michigan.
Yep.
There's a lot of hype coming around this guy.
Yep.
Oh man. But let's see, 14 solo tackles last season, 1 forced fumble. It's not enough. But I think the Browns. I'd rather have him as a potential threat for $10 million. That's not a lot.
It's not. And in NFL terms, it's not. And he is a big name because he is actually a very good player. And you can argue to the point of like not as many tackles, not as many sacks. But you have to keep in mind too, like if he's in the right spot on the field when the right play is being called, his coverage alone just might be enough to actually like make it so the ball's not thrown that direction or not ran that way, So I mean, it might be hard for him to get in on some tackles. So
and he's got Myles Garrett on the other. But then again, you can't really say that he's had J. Watt in 2014,
Yeah,
as his counterpart.
It's true, actually. Yeah, I forgot about that. Ronathan PX is saying the problem is that he can't play end in a 3-4 outside linebacker. And it's true. We've all seen it. I mean,
yeah.
So I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say Jadeveon Clowney's a bad player. What I'm gonna say is I think he has a lot to prove. In terms of going into this year to up his value in this league again and show these teams, if he doesn't stay with the Browns after this next season, that he's worth picking up and he's worth signing. So, or even extending if he has a big year with the Browns. But he's a good talent. He's just been having a couple off years here, it seems. So Ronathan also says he's an okay 4-3 end. But
for $10 million, that's kind of saying prove your worth, and really, I think it's his year to show his worth. You're going to be a $10 million. You're going to be a $10 million, defensive player, or how much do you want to make?
Right.
Show us what you got. This is it. I honestly think this is it. If he can't do shit this for the Browns, his number 1 overall pick was a fluke.
Yep, I agree with that statement. If he can't have a big year this year, then I definitely agree with the statement that, he is going to prove to be a bust as a first-round pick.
2014 J.J. Watt, his peak season had 9.5 sacks. You got a young Myles Garrett. I think you can definitely you have the potential to cause some ruckus for that division.
Myles Garrett's a monster, and yeah, I would 100% be after him in any draft in IDP leagues. So
switching to offense,
let's switch over to offense. You want to talk about Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, so Baker Mayfield, the Browns pick up 2 contracts. They're gonna take advantage of their 5th-year options with the rookies, Denzel Ward and Baker Mayfield. They're gonna pick up those 5th-year options, which, which really kind of raised my eyebrows was when they asked one of the heads, "Is he your guy for the future?" He said, "I can't answer that." Ooh, so it's like you guys are still uncontent with it. Like, what do you potentially have to address? Like, what do you have to get?
Right.
You know, I like Baker for that team. I think he's very fitting for the Cleveland Browns. That nitty gritty. You know, they're having fun last season, and it was fun to watch the Browns. You know, they took them to the playoffs.
The Browns, I've been saying this for years with all the moves they've been making for the past 2 or 3 years, is eventually this is going to click. Like, these guys are going to make this work. When you get receivers on your offense like Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham, and you get a guy who is as athletic as Baker Mayfield, who can move around the ball the way he did and is very mobile, he's kind of like, I won't compare him to Russell Wilson, like, skill-wise, but he's like build-wise, he's a lot like Russell Wilson of how he's smaller, he can get around these little crevices that other people can't, and he's fast. He actually is pretty darn fast, and
Pretty similar on paper.
ultimately he had a really good year last year, and I thought it was pretty awesome to see what they did with the run game, what they did with the passing game, even with OBJ not on the field. I like Baker Mayfield in this offense, and I like that they did a fifth-year option, and I like that Baker Mayfield actually was willing to do a fifth-year option instead of ask for more money, because if he has another good year, he only secures his spot with this team to get extended. You know what I mean? And then I do like what Ronathan is saying on this subject as well. He says they figured out that they need to give 15 to 20 touches each to Chubb and Hunt, and that was the key to their success. And I agree, because in every NFL offense, you see the run game, and when you see a run game prevail at the beginning of a game, and they just keep pounding the ball, when you get this new concept of tandem running backs, you know, you got your 1-2 punch guys, and then you get your fullback involved. It's really interesting to see how the passing game really opens up, because everyone is so damn worried about stopping the run at this point, because they haven't been able to stop it all game. Now it opens your passing game up. Now it opens your tight ends up. Now it opens up everything. And I do agree with that, with what Ronathan is saying in the chat.
I like Ronathan. Ronathan's my boy right here. I had both Chubb and Hunt in fantasy last season.
You did.
Terrible. You didn't know who to play. Sometimes you play both.
I'm gonna go out and say it. I think for their running backs next year, I think the running back that's going to have a better ground game is going to be Nick Chubb. And I think the running back that's going to be more involved in the passing game, as he should be, and he's going to have a big year, is going to be Kareem Hunt. I think that they're going to get him involved. Thank you for the sub, Geek. I love you too. Going back here, what do you say? It especially opened up the passing game to Kareem Hunt, and I think that's something that they can continue on. There's a lot to learn from what they did their offense, but yeah, I mean, I think I like Baker Mayfield for the Browns. I think he's a good quarterback.
He's a good fit. It's only been 3 seasons, you know, and it wasn't his best season with the Browns, only by 1 touchdown. He drop off from his rookie season. 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 72 QBR rating. It's not bad, and it's under first-year offense with Kevin Stefanski. I think there are good things to come for the Browns.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Kevin Stefanski. For me, when there's a lot of things to talk about with Kevin Stefanski and like what didn't work in Minnesota, and I have some pet peeves, I guess, with my Vikings in terms of what they've been doing.
Is the offense?
He was the assistant offensive coordinator with Gary Kubiak.
And the offense is where they're shining too. So
one thing that with the Browns I thought was very notable was the Browns released the defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson, and this saved the Browns $12 million versus their cap. Now, I don't like that move. I feel like they could have made something work with him. But again, I'm not in the front office of an NFL team, so I have no idea. But you could argue that he was one of their best defensive tackles. Sheldon Richardson's a stud. He came from Seattle to that team, so it would be really good. Ronathan said they just need Baker to be a game manager like Flacco did. Yeah, Flacco was never like the greatest quarterback the Ravens ever had, but he was a good game manager, and that's why the playoff version of Joe Flacco that we saw worked in that season, and that's why he's a Super Bowl champion. Yep.
Put some respect.
So put some respect on that name. No,
Tyrod Taylor, Super Bowl champion. I'm just saying.
He is. Jalen Hurts. Let's transition from quarterback talk. Do you have any more on the Browns that you want to cover?
No, overall, I think I'm just happy with their moves that they've been making as far as fully committing to Baker. Showing them that they want him in the long run, locking in their first round picks, and solidifying for them for the next 2 years. I'm happy for them.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with that. I think that the Browns are moving in the right direction, and they made the playoffs last year. And I could be wrong on this, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think they won their division last year.
Did the Steelers? Did they beat
them? Who won that division last year?
Let me see. Oh, let me look at this. All right, go pull that up. I'm gonna pull that up. Pull up the next one. I'm gonna put this in.
Okay, sounds good. Jalen
Hurts.
Talking about quarterbacks, we're going to transition to one quarterback that we have been talking about all year long because everyone that knows me is that I'm a big NDSU fan. Go Bison. They won last year. They won last week in the first round of the playoffs in a nitty-gritty rally game after they lost to our rivals, South Dakota State University Jackrabbits. At home in the Fargo Dome. So ultimately, it was a big week. They beat the Eastern Washington Eagles, where Cooper Kupp played. So it was huge that they won this game because that was supposed to be one of the tougher teams in the playoffs that actually did really well against South Dakota State. So the boys rallied. They showed that they want to win. So go Bison. And on that note, people that know I like the Bison know I've always been a Carson Wentz fan since he went into the NFL. What I didn't like is the moves that the Eagles had made in the past 2 years to physically not get Carson Wentz any help at offensive line, at receivers. They passed on receivers such as Justin Jefferson. And I'm a diehard Vikings fan, but when Carson was in Philadelphia, I was kind of a small. I was a small Eagles fan because of Carson being there, and I love the fact that he won a Super Bowl in 2 years, and he locked them into the playoffs that year. I know he was hurt and he didn't play in the Super Bowl, but they wouldn't have won the Super Bowl without Carson in the season that he had when he was on track to be MVP that year. So they ground and pound them. I thought it was idiotic of what the Eagles have done, and then my friend's an Eagles fan, actually, naturally, just not even because of Carson Wentz here.
I look fine behind.
He actually, his name is Stetson. He and I were talking over Snapchat a few days ago about how the Eagles couldn't make any more dumb decisions than they already have, and ultimately, within hours, they traded back into the draft to go get another position. And now there's all these conversations about, well, who's going to be the starting quarterback? And everybody assumed that when Carson left Philadelphia, that it was going to be Jalen Hurts because that's who they were starting over Carson.
They said, hold the phone.
Now they said, hold the phone. I'm going to blow this graphic up. We're going to cover both of us up here. It says, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni has officially declined to name quarterback Jalen Hurts the starting quarterback and expects competition at the position. The only other quarterback on the Eagles roster as of right now is a veteran quarterback, Joe Flacco. So this actually worked out really well to transition to this topic. So How do you see this competition going between Joe Flacco and Jalen Hurts, John?
I think coach is just trying to, light a fire under Jalen Hurts, letting him know that, hey, he's not going to come out and say it, but I think coach already knows, like, you got to roll with him. You got to roll with Hurts, man. You can't put in Joe Flacco off the beat. What if Joe Flacco does, though? What if Joe Flacco does pop off? He's all of a sudden. But as an Eagles fan, going Hurts. This is why you drafted him, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is exactly why.
First round, second round? I don't know.
I can't remember what round they got him, but it was like the dumbest decision ever because that was the year like they had all these. I think he was like a second or third round quarterback, I want to say. But it didn't make a whole lot of sense as to why they drafted a quarterback when their draft should have solely been focused on their offensive line and their receivers. And they already failed at receiver by passing on Justin Jefferson. He was, even though he didn't have like the better pro days of all the other receivers, he had great pro days. Everybody was saying that Jalen Reagor was going to be the guy that was better, faster, all the above. And so they drafted Jalen Reagor, and now they are really eating their words on that. And Justin Jefferson is mad. Like, I love this kid's mentality. I love his attitude. He has thrown some massive shade at the Eagles, and he's glad that Minnesota drafted him.
Should. Go ahead, go off, Justin Jefferson. Tell him. Tell everyone that passed up on you how much they regret that decision.
He's furious, and he said, "I have a target on my back. I want to play next year." When we get to the portion where we cover our team's needs, we'll talk more about that. But yeah, I think the Eagles. For my thought on it is that if the head coach is now officially not naming him the starting quarterback, I think it's not a matter of him knowing that he needs to start Jalen Hurts. I think it's him having very serious doubt that this is the guy. That this might not be the guy. Like, why do we draft him?
It wasn't his pick, right? Wasn't his pick?
No, it was Harry Roseman.
Exactly.
So I'm now thinking that the Eagles are really starting to feel the sting of not having Carson there anymore. And now that Carson is going to have a big test in Indianapolis now with the Colts, but I think he's ready for it. But I do think that the Eagles are very uncertain of who they're going to play at quarterback because to me, to even go out and get a guy like Joe Flacco, who's been in the league for years and hasn't had the greatest of seasons in the past, but to bring him in for competition, I feel like that's also a sign that you don't fully trust this young quarterback that you have.
I'll give the example of Ron Rivera and Haskins. That wasn't his guy. He had no commitment to him.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, homeboy gets cut, traded. But there's no, like I said, it wasn't his guy. It wasn't his pick. He has no commitment to him. That's his. Ron Rivera.
And by no means am I like bashing on Jalen Hurts because we haven't seen enough of him yet to really even make a fair judgment on how he plays. Right. But like if he gets the starting job, we're gonna know at the end of this year. But like with all of these signings and like all these things being said about how he's not automatically going to be labeled the starter because most teams have named their starting quarterback going into the next season if they don't need a quarterback. So these guys got two quarterbacks now,
and still doubtful.
And they still don't know who they're going to start. So I believe that, and I still believe that with the Eagles. I don't think that they are very well ran football team. After they won their Super Bowl, I feel like they had a massive sophomore slump or Super Bowl slump, not sophomore slump, and they're still in it. They don't know what to do with this team right now because this team has fallen apart. They've lost a lot of key defensive starters. They lost a lot of offensive linemen, and they can't seem to stay healthy. So I think this team doesn't know what the direction they're going. But
good luck, guys. Good luck, Eagles fans.
Yep.
It's going to be a tough one.
It could be a rough one again. We'll see what happens. But we'll see what happens with Jalen Hurts. To end that conversation, who do you think is going to be the starter for next year?
Jalen Hurts. The reason the organization drafted him. And if he's not, that's why I'm not an Eagles fan.
I'm gonna go on the opposite side of it, and I'm gonna say through training camps, I think Flacco and his veteran experience is gonna come out on top if they're truly gonna have a competition at this.
I would laugh so hard. I mean, I respect Flacco. He was in my division a couple seasons ago with the Broncos.
What if he gets a spark underneath him to play better because he
starts just becoming the GOAT again? Like, you forget who I am?
Did you forget who playoff Flacco is? Well, let me just remind you. I'm gonna say that just a bold theory that I have on that is he's gonna open the doors this year.
Hey, we love a veteran comeback.
All right. Well, let's talk about some one other topic that I found here that was really interesting. So Thaddeus Moss did not do well where he went last year, and I think that he was with the Washington football team. He really didn't do much, and that Moss last name carries a lot of weight. But I think this is actually going to work out for the best for him because the Cincinnati Bengals have officially claimed Thaddeus Moss. And he's going to be playing with his old quarterback from LSU where they won championships. So the Bengals have a new tight end. They got Thaddeus Moss, and it's going to be Joe. It could possibly be the Joe Burrow and Thaddeus Moss show again, as it was in college.
What?
Do you think this is going to be a good thing for Joe Burrow, especially coming off that injury?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think you're so young, any sense of comfortability and having coming back from an injury, it wasn't a great season. This is his another spark. I know this guy. I know the connection. I know how he moves. It could be good. Now, what's their position? Do you think they're going to draft him early?
What's that?
Are they going to draft him early, or he did not play?
So he was Thaddeus Moss was drafted by Washington last year, and then he played, but he didn't do very well over on that team. So then he was cut, and then the Bengals claimed him off of waiver wires.
Wow, I'm reading that right now. Wow.
Yep, they claimed.
Yeah, I like it. If I'm a Bengals fan, any form of familiarity, Thaddeus Moss, Joe Burrow, I like it. What do you think?
I think it's a great signing. I think that you really have nothing to lose with it, and if this guy decides to, blow up and be as successful as his father was, which I'm not saying in 1 year you can do that, but I will say, if he gets on the right track, I think Thaddeus Moss could have a really good career in the NFL. Because I mean, who did the Bengals even have at tight end off the top of your head, or off the top of my head? I can't think of. I'm not a Bengals fan, but who did the Bengals have at tight end currently?
Jay Uzama? No, that's not him. See, you don't even know.
I have no idea.
It's an American football tight end for the Cincinnati Bengals. CJ Uzama. Yeah. Thank you, Madden.
Let me look this up. Bengals tight end. Because I cannot remember.
That depth chart.
I cannot remember who it is.
Bengals
Tyler Eifert. He's pretty good.
Tyler Eifert was tight end. He's now in Jacksonville.
He was. So
2 years ago. The only one there left was CJ Uzama.
So this could be good. This could be good for Thaddeus Moss.
This could be great.
This could be a big thing for Thaddeus Moss to be with his old quarterback.
Here we go. It's not even CJ Uzama's not even their starter. Who's Drew Sample?
What's that? You cut out.
Drew Sample is their starting tight end.
Yeah. You gotta. Yeah. You can't go wrong with this signing.
We'll take it.
You can't. If I were a Bengals fan, I'd say this is exciting because
best news off season right now.
What we have is not working. What we got could work. We have hope now, and sometimes that's all you need. So
Shout out CJ Uzama.
Speaking of hope, let's talk about the hopes of Julian Edelman and what his career was and the possibility of Hall of Fame. So, Hall of Fame stats. This has been a huge topic of debate of who should go make it to the Hall of Fame, who shouldn't. So, Pro Football Hall of Fame has just released recently that with the news of Edelman's retirement, today he would be first eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2026. And before we go into too much discussion about it, I am going to bring up his stat sheet of what he did in his career. And then we'll talk about what your thoughts on a guy like Edelman getting into the Hall of Fame are. Because there's been a lot of debate about this, actually. So Julian Edelman's career, he was a 7th round draft pick, which is incredible, by the way, that he had the success that he had. He is a 3-time Super Bowl champion with Tom Brady. He is a 1-time Super Bowl MVP where he had that ridiculous catch between his legs where the ball never touched the ground. He had a total of 620 receptions, 6,822 receiving yards, 41 total touchdowns, 118 postseason receptions, and 1,422 postseason yards, second most in the Super Bowl era, behind only Jerry Rice. So, my instant thought on seeing these numbers is yes, this guy is a Hall of Fame receiver. We talked earlier before we started the stream of whether he should make it or not based off of these numbers, because a lot of people will sit here and say that the Patriots are a system team, and look at what happened when Tom Brady left. Julian Edelman could never really seem to get healthy as of the last couple of years. He got in trouble for PEDs, so a lot of people are going to point that out. It's kind of it's kind of an interesting subject to talk about, because you see those numbers, you see how successful he was in the league, but then you start bringing up these little tidbits of information on Julian Edelman. What are your thoughts on Julian Edelman, John? Like, what do you think of this situation?
I respect him. He's not a first ballot Hall of Famer in my, but he is I think he eventually gets in, just because. I mean, look at the time. If what it is, Super Bowl Hall of Fame, the dude's got what, 3 rings?
Yep.
It's more player. That's more than any player on my team has ever had. And just think of his highlight plays, like plays in playoff situations where he's come through for them and he's got them to that next level, such as the pass to Chris Hogan in the playoffs. So you got the catch between the legs, like you said earlier, and Falcons, the Super Bowl. Like, he's coming from he's a quarterback at Kent State.
Yeah.
Not even a wide receiver. Like, come on, man. Like, I think eventually he does get in. Not a first ballot in my eyes, just because, it's Tom Brady throwing you the football, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Brady is the GOAT. He still is the GOAT, but he's got, I would say, not first ballot, second, third. Why not?
I actually really love that, the way you word that, because, 7th round pick. This is another guy that you can compare to Tom Brady in some ways. Of Tom Brady was a 6th round pick. Julian Edelman is a 7th round pick. When they were in New England together, they won 3 Super Bowls together, and that, I mean, the love that Julian Edelman himself has shown for Tom Brady is immense, and they respect each other's game to the max. His numbers are good. 41 touchdowns, 620 receptions, 6,822 receiving yards, and that's not even including the 1,400 yards that are in postseason. That's really interesting. So I think I agree. You know, when he becomes eligible in 2026, I agree with the statement of maybe not a first round ballot, but you know, second, third, fourth round ballot, I think is perfectly acceptable for him to go into the Hall of Fame. But like, you get into this conversation of like Hall of Fame and what players should go in and why they should go in. And we were talking about it before we went live a little bit with, you know, certain players. Like, I would never, and someone in chat's going to go off at me on this, I can already feel it. I would never allow Eli Manning into the Hall of Fame. Never.
Into the Hall.
Never.
He's got two rings, though.
And he does have 2 rings, and they are against the Patriots. But here's why I wouldn't. There's a stat sheet on Eli Manning. If you want to look that up real quick, actually, and just send it to me.
Eli Manning stats?
Yeah, I'll pull it up. Like, just do career stats for Eli Manning. I can't remember what they all were, but like his touchdown to interception ratio alone is terrible.
Terrible, he says. Let's check it out.
It's awful. Like, it's not even like his win and loss record is.
Wow, that's a lot. 366 to 244.
His win to loss ratio is insanely, like, it's not acceptable. And like, to me, like, that just shows any average football fan that a ring does not make you a Hall of Fame player. And I like the Manning brothers. I think Eli Manning was a good quarterback, but I do think the hype behind him was so overrated. I remember watching the Vikings play him all the time, and I mean, the Vikings don't have any Super Bowls, so I'm not going to sit here and say that like they were always a better team than the Giants. But
just say it. Just tell them.
Most times when the Giants and Vikings played, they sacked Eli Manning like 8 times. Like, his sack numbers are insane. Do you have his stats up?
Eli Manning?
Yeah.
Yeah, so career stats right now, 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. I kind of zoned out.
All right, 366 touchdowns to 244 interceptions. That's 57,000 career yards. That's a terrible QBR rating.
Well, what's his QBR rating?
Let's see. What's this? Let's see. Eli's career. Let me look it up. But yeah, I'm with our boy right there. Look the chat agrees.
Yeah.
Chad agrees. Eli's not a.
Ronathan says Eli's not a Hall of Famer. Mad Dog is saying not a Hall of Famer.
But then again, you want to go on of Calvin Johnson. What about him? You know, he has no ring.
Right, and that's the thing that like I always want to bring up with this is that rings in a sense don't make you a Hall of Famer or the greatest of all time. It's how you played. It's how successful you were in terms of how unstoppable you were. And so we all.
To answer your question about the QBR, he is ranked 31 of all time QBR rating at 2, and 82.71.
That's low.
Aaron Rodgers at 104 is number 1.
So there's 31 other quarterbacks ahead of him. Mm-hmm. That's a lot.
and take a glance.
In NFL terms, that's a lot.
31, Eli. Stafford's at 29. Jay Cutler has a better overall career.
Oh, boy.
Don't tell me Jay Cutler's going into the Hall of Fame either, right?
Jay Cutler's not going in the Hall of Fame.
Jay Cutler at 26. Don't tell me Jay Cutler's going to the Hall of Fame.
No.
Get out of here with that.
No. But that just proves the point that we're talking about, is that rings don't make you a Hall of Fame player. They don't. They simply don't. And this goes with any sport. I mean, I don't know, like, this is going to spark a conversation, but that's okay. So there's like this Michael Jordan and LeBron James debate forever, right? Yep. Well, you could bring this up and say, I'm going to say LeBron James is the greatest player of this decade. That's fair.
Okay.
Fair
statement.
Like last 10 years, Michael Jordan is the best to ever play.
Okay.
Of all time. Like, and people will sit there and disagree with that, but you have to think of how different the league is now compared to back then, right?
Right.
They played so much more harder than they played so much harder than they do now. The amount of defense that was played back then was levels of intensity higher.
Defenses couldn't, or offenses couldn't hang with defenses.
There was literally when like
street ball.
Well, yeah, in a sense, it was almost like street ball at times, and there was these big fights. And you watch the Detroit Pistons and the Chicago Bulls play back in the day. It was rough, man. Like the referees and all the former referees and players that all joined the Last Dance documentary talked about this. And Dennis Rodman said we had this thing called Jordan rules, and the refs knew about it, and that was that we have to keep Michael Jordan out of the air or we knew we were going to lose that game. So they would beat the absolute dog shit out of Michael Jordan the entire game and to keep him on the ground. So when Dennis Rodman saw him take these beatings, he was just like, yeah, I want to play with that guy if he can take that beating and still get back up, you know? And he did. He eventually went to the Bulls and he played with Jordan. And Jordan was the only guy that was able to get through to him. So it's just a prime example of, you know, the Hall of Fame aspect. I think both these guys are Hall of Fame players between Michael Jordan and LeBron. But, you know, all the people say, well, he's been people. Yeah, people say, well, LeBron's been to the NBA Finals more times. Well, he's also been in the league longer than Jordan ever was. And Jordan took 2 years. Jordan took a full season off. And he filmed to play baseball and golf, and he tried to figure some other things out, and he came back and he won 3 more championships. And what motivated him to win 3 more championships is he came back, made the playoffs when he wasn't in basketball shape with one of the same teams, and he filmed Space Jam, and he literally had everybody else come on to the set of Space Jam, and they built a gym for Michael Jordan to get back into basketball shape. So the guy was like getting next to no sleep between filming the movie and getting back into basketball shape, and he would have the scrimmages with like some of the best NBA players. So it was really interesting.
Top 10 favorite movie.
Yeah. So that I think the Hall of Fame discussion is a really interesting one to have about any sport, because you have to factor in generations, and you have to factor in players on a roster. And like Eli Manning's roster carried him. His defense carried him to the Super Bowl.
That offensive line was pretty monstrous too.
Yeah, that line was good.
That's something I looked into heavily, was that offensive line monster.
Yeah, they were good. That offensive line was good. But what that didn't even really elevate his play. What elevated his play was the defense getting the offense back on the field all the time, and turnovers, and they had a high scoring defense.
Barber on there during peak. They had Shannon. Who's the guy with the gap teeth?
Oh, Michael Strahan.
Michael Strahan.
Don't do
it. Oh man.
Yeah,
good times.
Michael Strahan. Yeah. He was there, and yeah, I think that it's always going to be a fun topic of discussion, but it's always going to be a debate too.
Yeah. Good points brought up.
I probably talked a lot. Do you have any thoughts that you wanted to add on that?
Yeah, before, we're at the hour mark, but I really want to hear your thoughts on Trey Lance.
Yes.
We're going into drafting now. All right, we've covered a lot, but now my main concern, Trey Lance. There's a lot of hype around him.
Yeah.
He had a separate pro day recently.
He did.
I saw ESPN feature. Maybe you saw it about his little. Tried to raise the stock value. They interviewed him, asked him a couple questions. I really was interested in it. He went undefeated, the undefeated season.
Yeah, so when he was at NDSU, he went 16-0 and for the FCS football, and he threw 0 interceptions.
0 interceptions.
Yep, and they won the championship.
And then he threw his first interception last season.
So they had one game because the 2020 season got canceled until spring football, and for FCS because a lot of teams were backing out because of COVID. So he got one game, and he threw his first career interception. Yep.
So on that note, where do you see his draft stock? Where do you see him sitting at within the rankings?
I think it's high. And a lot of people are going to argue it and say, well, he only had one season as like a true freshman for NDSU. But you can also say, well, he did win a natty in his 1 year that he played. And he played, I think, for like 4 or 5 games when Easton Stick went down the year before when he was a redshirt freshman. So he went undefeated in those games too. So there's a lot to be said about his success, his success rate and his competitiveness that he just naturally holds. So I think in one of the key things, if you watch any of his games at NDSU, is that he's very mobile. And you don't know when he's going to run. And like even at the championship game that my friend and I went to down in Texas together, we said at the beginning of the year we're going to go. So we went to this game, and he did this play where he faked a rush, and then he stopped, and then he threw the pass to the tight end in the end zone. So like he made that front seven think, okay, he's going to run. So he basically pulled a blitz onto himself and then just lobbed the ball over the defensive line to the tight end when all the pressure was taken off, and it was like nobody was guarding him in the end zone. It was insane. He just has some very good natural instincts, and I think it's really unfair to like grade him down because of one interception that he threw in college in the one game that he got to play.
And a lot of people are gonna talk. He played in at NDSU.
Yeah.
But you know what? NDSU's had some great quarterbacks to come out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Come out of there.
Brock Jensen.
Everyone gets drafted. Everyone gets drafted out of NDSU.
In the offensive line too, there's a lot of really great offensive line that come from NDSU, and the school itself has now officially become one of those top tier schools to go get offensive line from and quarterback play. And I was really hoping that some other wide receivers would kind of make it bigger in the NFL, but they didn't. But it's interesting to look at the track record of some of these guys that are coming out of NDSU. Brock Jensen went to the Miami Dolphins the draft. He got cut ultimately, but then he went to the Canadian Football League, which still gives you an opportunity someday.
Right.
And he has won, I think, a couple championships over for the team he plays for. And then from Brock Jensen, we transitioned to Carson, and Carson won a championship after Brock won 2 or 3.
Carson won.
Yeah, and then so Carson won a championship, and then Easton Stick came in, played 8 games for Carson when he was hurt. Carson won the championship for the team. So then Easton Stick goes in, and he loses the championship, and then he wins 2 more. And then we transitioned to Trey Lance. And then Trey Lance gets his first real start of the season, which was interesting because they brought in Zeb Noland and they brought in Trey Lance to fight for the job. Trey Lance wins the job, and then he goes 16-0, throws 0 interceptions, wins the championship.
Which is hard to do.
It's incredibly hard to do. And like
a whole season, no interceptions.
And for someone to say things like all the media like saying the things like, well, it's FCS football.
They play it down. They play it down a lot.
Okay, well, Billy Turner, he's an offensive lineman for the Packers. Joe Haig just won a Super Bowl as an offensive lineman for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Carson Wentz won a Super Bowl in 2 years with Philadelphia. Like, Cooper Kupp came from Eastern Washington.
Kupp, I love Cooper Kupp.
He's a stud. Go. Like, there's a lot of players in the NFL that came from FCS. I mean, does anybody know the name of Kurt Warner from the Arizona Cardinals?
I know that guy.
Just saying, like, Just because it's FCS football doesn't mean anything. You could say the same thing about Chad Greenway. He came from 9-man football. One of the best.
Not even played down of these upper bigger schools. You got all these USC quarterbacks coming in, and they do what? To shit the bed.
Yeah, they bust.
I'm sorry. I used to root for USC during Pete Carroll days, but USC quarterbacks trash.
I think it's really unfair to judge a player based off of what school they're coming from all the time when you can look at their success rate and how well they did at their position. And I think the FCS is getting more and more well known that they have some very good players that have gotten drafted and have made it. Trey Lance is so yeah. To answer the question before, I don't want to go into any more tangents, I guess. Trey Lance, his draft stock it should stay high.
Middle of the pack. He's somewhere in the middle of the first.
I
think he's a first.
They're saying he's a first, but here's the thing: is because he's an FCS quarterback, I feel like a lot of that's going to come down to it on draft day. So I think what's going to happen with this is ultimately they are going to probably have him drafted in the second or third round. I think he's going to drop back a little bit.
If you were to compare him to an NFL quarterback, current NFL quarterback,
mm-hmm.
who are you comparing him to? As someone who doesn't watch NDSU football,
I'd say he's kind of like he's a mixed caliber between. Thanks for Luke Suka. I think he is a mixed caliber between Kyler Murray and Patrick Mahomes.
Got the arm strength of Patrick Mahomes.
He has a cannon on him. Yeah, he's got a really good arm. So
and the mobility, is stature like Kyler Murray or what?
Yeah, he's not like the shortest guy because he is like 6'2". So, but like when he's playing, he doesn't look that tall. But I think we're gonna see him hit some training camps, and he's gonna be a big boy.
What team would be lucky to get him?
From what the looks of it is, if he doesn't drop down, he's probably gonna go to around San Francisco. Is what the rumors are. San Francisco traveled out. Kyle Shanahan traveled out twice to go watch his pro days. And then
I like that. I just off of the one clip that I did see of that ESPN footage, mobile quarterback. You got a lot of wide receivers, a big offensive line over there in San Fran. That could work.
I agree, and
like heavy offense.
Right, I completely agree with that, and I think that I think he'll probably most likely go to San Francisco if his draft value doesn't drop. Okay. But realistically, I don't see him dropping out of the first round. Okay. I know I said probably second or third round because of FCS, but that's like kind of just because of the love that the FCS doesn't get. But with the hype that's built around him currently, I do think he will go in the first round. Who would be lucky to get him? Minnesota. My Vikings.
Just the franchise.
They have not. Yeah, they haven't had an opportunity to get a quarterback like this before, appropriately, and we've filled some gaps at offensive line in the offseason, and we've filled a lot of our defense back up. So I think getting a good backup quarterback behind Kirk Cousins and not some guy like Sean Mannion who is terrible it's huge. Like, because you kind of light a fire underneath Kirk Cousins to play well, and on top of it, you have a guy who's a projected starter if something were to happen to Kirk Cousins, which I don't want anything to because he's a great quarterback. It's tough to say, but like if something were to happen to Kirk, you need a guy that's ready to play and to step up. And Sean Mannion has never been that guy. Sean Mannion, when he was going in, you were going to lose the game. Like, it's just the way it was. And it sounds terrible to say, but I feel like that's just a true statement.
So are you pulling the trigger on him first round?
I think if you have the opportunity at the 14th pick, yeah, you take him. Okay. Yeah, you take him. And
I think he's that guy. I gotta see this.
Offensive line, if they don't get any offensive linemen, because there's going to be a lot of good offensive linemen in the second, third, fourth, fifth round. Like, And you want to get those first round offensive linemen, but we also have seen some of those first round guys bust too, so it's tough to say.
Flops. So that's this week, though.
That's the draft is this week.
Golly.
It's coming up.
They're about to change, about to shake and bake in the NFL.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about next week.
I can't wait.
I would hate to play running back for a Shanahan offense. He gets his running backs hurt. He does get hurt.
They drop a lot. Last season was like a carousel fantasy trying to do that, Jonathan. Never fun.
One thing that's interesting too that we haven't got to discuss, and we'll briefly cover it, is so there's a new rule in the NFL that players can swap their jerseys, but they can swap numbers now as well going into the season. There's less rules and strictness on what number you can have in the NFL. So
wow. Buy their jersey.
Yeah, so what the players were told is if they want to change their number, they actually need to buy out the rest of their inventory. And I do have one math number that I can pull in for you, or just in the Discord to show you of how expensive this is. So the players have been told they have to buy their existing jersey inventory if they want to change their number this year. Now this is true. This is a fact. And
the NFL inventory, I'm guessing?
Yeah. Yep, the NFL inventory. So one thing that's to be noted is Dalvin Cook looked into this because he thought about changing his number back to 4.
Yeah.
And
look at me. That's great.
It was insane how much it cost.
Dalvin Cook.
I know exactly how much it costs. If I can't find it.
You passed that graphic that you just used. Oh, is that one? No. Okay, so up a little bit more is the graphic you just pulled up. So before or after that? I might not
have even put it in here, to be honest. But the math number for Dalvin Cook to change his number would have been $1.5 million.
Okay, that's a lot. Chunk change to these guys, but that's a lot of money. just for inventory switch.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. So he backed out. He's not going to do it. He's leaving his number 33. Stephon Diggs said he's not changing his number. He said, people have supported number 14 since they came into the league. I'm not going to change my number. They spent their hard-earned money on 14, so I'm not going to swap it out.
The guy.
So I thought that was really awesome of Diggs. I don't know if we're going to see a lot of players change their numbers going forward.
Yeah.
I don't
team
see
switches, people change their numbers all the time. Look at Carson Wentz. He got the new number now, right?
Yeah, he's number 2. Yep.
Number 2.
Yep.
You got to get you that 2 jersey now.
Yep, I am. I'm actually going to get one. I'm going to get a Colts jersey. But yeah, I thought that was kind of an interesting side note that they had for the jersey, the numbers.
Fun facts. Look at us delivering fun facts to you guys.
Let's see here. What else did you send me, John?
No, my biggest thing was that Trey Lance. I just wanted to see your Browns pick. We covered Orlando.
So let's go ahead and cover the teams that we love, and that is the Chargers and the Vikings. So I've done my fair share of talking, so I'm going to have you talk about your Chargers for a bit. And the draft's coming up, what you want to see them go after, and what do you think they need?
All right, so if you saw our last episode a couple weeks ago with the Rum Boys, offensive line, that's our first address. We got some picks, but we need depth. Just kind of like Kansas City is doing, we need depth. We need to protect our guy. We can't have Joe Burrow, our guy, go down like Joe Burrow. It's terrible. I saw a in a Chargers picture in the Chargers forum saying this is why we need to invest in our. We can't have a quarterback go down like that.
Right.
That we haven't seen it yet, but it could definitely hinge his career. Just an injury like that, he may never play the same. For example, RG3, that guy went down to injury, never played the same when he had an awesome rookie season.
Yeah.
So I hope we do address the offensive line. That would be my main concern. Secondary, I think we're lucky. We pick up a wide receiver. We need the depth. Defensively, we need cornerbacks. So I think priority would be O-line, cornerbacks, wide receivers. We get Derwin James back as a safety. That's definitely a playmaker on the field. I think we have the 13th overall pick. We're right in front of you.
Yeah, you're right in front of us. Yep.
So we'll be in contact during the draft.
we will be. Yep, I agree with that. Penny Sewell, that's who I want. I want the Vikings, if they don't get the opportunity at Trey Lance, which I don't think they will, I want them to get that offensive lineman, Sewell.
I'll take that too. I think Sewell is probably the most promising offensive line. But there are some definitely there's like another top. There's top four that I would be comfortable with, maybe even 3. But I think you two also need offensive.
We do. We need offensive line bad. It's frustrating. Well, now we can talk about it, like with the Vikings. For me, as a Vikings fan, fans have been screaming at the front office of this team to go get an offensive line for the last 4 seasons. I think the last 4 seasons we've sat around 27th, 28th, 30th, 29th with our offensive line rank in the league, and that's out of 32 teams, boys and girls. That's pathetic that you can't get this right in 4 years, and the Chiefs just got it right in 1. In one off season, and the Chiefs signed a $10 million contract with Patrick Mahomes. What was his contract? It was some crazy. It was a 10-year,
$150 million.
Yeah,
something like
it was
that.
insane. It was an insane amount of money. Yeah.
Mahomes contract.
And they still got people paid, and they still got people back. And then you get guys like Tom Brady who restructure, and to keep a good offensive line around him, and to keep good players on defense.
7 years, $150 million.
God, that's nuts.
And
the Vikings can't seem to figure out how to get their offensive line bolstered in 4 years, and the Chiefs did it in 6 months. It's kind of a slap in the face as a fan. So I really hope the Vikings really dive all into this offensive line issue that they have this year. And now that the Chiefs have set the example, I hope the Vikings see this and say, yeah, we got to do this too. Because when Kirk Cousins has time to throw the ball, he's fantastic. And to back that statement up, he's had 3 of his best seasons in his career with the Minnesota Vikings. And looking at his stats here, I grabbed these. So Kirk Cousins last season, he had more yards than Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, Ryan Tannehill, and Lamar Jackson. He had a higher completion percentage than Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Tom Brady. He had more touchdowns thrown than Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. And he had more yards averaged a play than Kyler Murray, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Josh Allen.
Those are all great quarterbacks.
Like, when he has time to throw the ball, it's massive, and I really want them to dive in deep into this offensive line and say we got to get him protection. And on top of it, we had one of the worst defenses in the league last year. We still had the 4th best offense. So you bolster your offensive line. You go from being a 4th best offense maybe to be the 1st or 2nd with Justin Jefferson and Chad Beebe and all these guys that were just going off last year for the Vikings offense. We had one of the worst defenses last year because we lost a bunch of starters and a lot of guys got hurt. Well, now our defense is healthy. We have picked up some defensive ends and cornerbacks. Daniil Hunter is going to be back. He looks ready to go. He's not holding out. He's going to play to try to earn that contract. And the Vikings are in a good spot. They went from a really bad spot in cap space to a really good spot. Now they have money to spare. And that's going to be good going into next year. So I think with the draft, you add depth to your cornerbacks. Mike Zimmer does. You get this defense back to where they were. I think it was a mistake letting Kevin Stefanski go last year. He should have kept him around big time. But we'll have to make it work now. I knew that he was a great offensive mind. But in terms of player-wise and position-wise, we need offensive line. We need a couple defensive tackles. We need 2 or 3 linemen. We need a couple defensive tackles, possibly defensive end and for depth, and then we need a couple corners. And then for the love of Christ, go out and get a kicker. Because late in the draft. You don't need to get a kicker early. Go out and get a kicker because I'm sick and tired of watching these old veteran guys come in and shank extra points and 30-yard chip shots that these guys are just simply getting paid to do now instead of doing it in college like it was nothing. You're getting paid to do it. That should be more incentive to make your field goals. So stop hitting the post, stop going wide left or right, go get a kicker, and stop putting up with the bullshit of the kicker that always misses the extra point when you need that extra point to get ahead in the game. Because the Vikings lost a lot of games last year within actually a field goal or less. I think like 4 or 5 of their losses came from less than a field goal, which is rough. Okay. So
you know what? Same. I mean, I don't think my team needs a. I think we just re-signed a kicker, but it's the worst when your kicker can't get shit right.
It's like an extra point on an offensive drive. It shows you. The world. I mean, Dan Bailey missed in one game, I think, like 2 extra points and 2 field goals that were within 35 yards. And you do the math on that. 2 extra points, 2 field goals. That's 6. That's 8 points off the board. That's a full touchdown. That's a full score with a 2-point conversion. That's huge. Like that's a full possession on the field, and that means your defense also laid it on the line and they stopped people. They stopped the offensive drive to a field goal, or like it's just crazy numbers to talk about that how many games the Vikings lost and were just barely out of playoff contention, even with one of the worst defenses in the league that was allowing like 35 to 40 plus points a game last year. So that's my thoughts on the Vikings. That's what they need to do in the draft.
That's my thoughts on the Chargers, man. We need to fix some stuff, but we're on our way. Our organization's we're we all hope a draft pick away from a Super Bowl.
We all hope and believe that. So we'll go through some fun things here, and then we'll close out. So one thing I noticed about the Vikings too was the Vikings signed Xavier Woods from the Cowboys, and Xavier Woods said, just as much as I was preparing for the Vikings offense, I was watching Harrison Smith. That was one of the main reasons why I wanted to be here, to learn from him and to play with him. So that was kind of exciting. There's been new rumors coming out of the mill that the Vikings have been interested in the Auburn wide receiver Anthony Schwartz. The Vikings have reached out to him and his agent multiple times during this draft process. Schwartz ran a blazing 4.26.40 time. He is expected to be drafted on day 3 of the draft.
Third rounders are sometimes they're sleepers.
Some small things for me. Justin Jefferson. Gridiron. I
saw that.
They said, what school is the true wide receiver university? And Marlon Humphreys said Bama or LSU, but being that LSU hasn't won a natty in years, it's got to be Bama. And Justin Jefferson said, do I got memory loss, or did we just win a championship 2 years, or did we just win the championship 2 years?
A lot of talent to come out of wide receivers, DBs, just all around.
Some fun stuff here was the highest passer rating for when targeted last season, tight ends with 30 plus targets. There was only 2, and it was Robert Tonyan from the Green Bay Packers of 148.3. I had him in fantasy, and then Irv Smith Jr. at 139.7. So people bashing the Vikings for not keeping Kyle Rudolph, we're going to be okay.
Going to be all right.
Michael Pierce weighed in. He says that he is weighed in at 335 pounds to 340 pounds, and that's where he wants to play.
Pierce. defensive tackle.
Yes. Yep. What else here? So we talked about rings earlier and just the value of them. This stat line says top ringless quarterbacks. Dan Marino is number 1. Jim Kelly is number 2. Randall Cunningham is number 3. The Vikings had him at one point. Fran Tarkenton, number 4. He was a Viking for life. Phillip Rivers. There's your boy. There's your boy, Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers.
I gotta find it for you here.
Number 5, Doc Garnett.
Gosh darn it! Yeah. Phillip Rivers is in the number 5 spot. Warren Moon. The Vikings had Warren Moon at one point. Dan Fouts, Steve McNair, Michael Vick, and Jim Everett. So kind of an interesting list that I found from that.
Jonathan, right? Easy.
This
a lot of things, but don't put some respect on
Phillip Givers. Oh, that's too good. The Real Football Talk, again, I don't know how credible these guys' sources are, so don't take it to heart. They're saying that there's now a report, this was as of yesterday, there's reports now that the Jets have offered a huge trade package to the Seahawks for Russell Wilson, assuming that the number 2 pick is in the deal. So that's kind of interesting because the Jets are projected to actually go after Zach Wilson from BYU.
BYU?
Yep. So Pro Fantasy Football, Pro Football Focus, who the Rum Boys work with, posted this. The highest graded rookie seasons by a player selected in the first round of the NFL draft since 2015 says Justin Jefferson is in the top at 2020 with 90.4. Josh Jacobs had 87.1 in 2019. Saquon Barkley followed that in 2018 with 85.2. And Baker Mayfield was in the 4th position on this list in 2018. Baker Mayfield at 83.2.
That graphic?
Pro Football Focus. So then
behind your face. It says highest graded rookie. Okay.
Yeah, I'll decrease my stuff here real quick so you can see it. Yeah, so that's where those numbers are coming from. What else here before we close?
What are your thoughts on Josh Jacobs? Overrated, underrated?
Josh Jacobs?
I'm a Raiders. I'm a Chargers fan, but it was overrated.
I'm gonna say underrated.
Rated.
I'm gonna go underrated on it.
Slept on.
Speaking of underrated, before we forget, the 49ers have also signed former Giants running back Wayne Gallman, who was great in fantasy if you needed a running back. And then some interesting numbers that I found for Tom Brady facts. When trailing or tied at halftime in the postseason, Tom Brady is 9-7. Peyton Manning is 3-8, and Aaron Rodgers is 1-8. Not a good number. And then what else did I find here? I found this funny. I found this meme that says Tom Brady would be 10-0 in Super Bowls if these two men didn't exist, and they posted like the worst pictures possible of both these guys, but just too funny to not share. But I had to kind of go through some of those. I did forget one thing actually, and that was running backs. We didn't get to talk about running backs going into the fantasy season. So this is actually really interesting too. There's 6 quarterbacks in the first round that are projected by CBS Sports HQ by Pete Schrager. Number 1 will be Trevor Lawrence to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 2 will be Zach Wilson to from BYU to the New York Jets. Now they're saying that the San Francisco 49ers are really kind of all in on Justin Fields. And then these fall down to where it says with the 14th pick, the Vikings will pursue Trey Lance. which I could see because he's from Minnesota. That's his hometown, actually. And then Mac Jones will probably be drafted by the New England Patriots, which people are really confused on why everyone is starting to buy on Mac Jones all of a sudden. The 20th pick will be Davis Mills by the Chicago Bears. So there's some good conversation going on about the 6 quarterbacks that are going to go in the first round. So I'd be thrilled if the Vikings got Trey Lance.
Okay. It's possible. So
then Justin Jefferson is saying, I thought the Eagles would draft me, but I'm definitely glad the Vikings did instead, per Pro Football Talk.
I'm glad they did too.
And then top 10 receivers as of last year. This was the top 10 that you can look forward to your drafts this year. Devontae Adams was number 1. DeAndre Hopkins was number 2. Kansas City Chiefs. Anyone in their receiving core was pretty solid. There was no solid number 1 guy. They spread the ball around pretty good. So what they're saying in this graph is you're safe getting any sort of Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver.
Yeah.
So Stephon Diggs is sitting at number 4. Michael Thomas, for some reason, is at 5. I don't agree with that. Allen Robinson for the Chicago Bears, I can agree with that. Julio Jones, the 7th spot. Kind of disagree because he didn't have a huge year last year. DK Metcalf, I think he's a little low. I think he's a little low on the list personally. Keenan Allen is a 9th, which I feel like he'll have a big year again with Justin Herbert. And then we got F1 McLaurin from the Washington football team.
That's really all they got
at 10 spots. So kind of an interesting thing. And they'll have Curtis Samuel going into next year.
The middle of the pack is it could be rearranged a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought. Where would you place the middle of the pack?
I think Michael Thomas goes higher.
Higher?
And I do think Michael Thomas goes higher. The dude just catches everything that's thrown to him. If it's thrown to him. But then again, now we got to rearrange it, right? Who's throwing to him? You think Thomas lower?
Oh, Ronathan disagrees. Okay. I like Ronathan.
And I'm not Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver as a draft pick. If I'm thinking, I can't take. I'm not sold on any of them in top 10.
That's fair.
Not a top 10. Overall. Taysom, not Breeze. And then Julio, I personally like his number 2 better.
Calvin Ridley.
Number 2 Calvin Ridley is a monster.
Yeah,
I think
he was good.
Don't sleep on him.
Yeah, don't sleep on Calvin Ridley.
Reckon with. I like him higher. Keenan Allen, he can go. I'm cool with that. Keenan Allen at 9, cool. I'm happy with that. Top 10 at least. Stephon Diggs.
I'd go higher. I'd go higher. I put him over. I would put Diggs over the Kansas City Chiefs receivers.
Cool with that. I'm comfortable with that. All right, this is where I have a problem with Allen. I don't have an opinion on Allen Robinson. I don't think he's great. I don't think he's overrated. I don't think he's underrated. He's Allen Robinson.
I think I would adjust Allen Robinson over Michael Thomas.
So you'd switch him 5 and 6.
Yeah, and then I would probably knock down Michael Thomas. I'd probably knock down Michael Thomas down below Julio as well, and then I'd put DK Metcalf probably somewhere close to the 4 and 5 spot if I could.
I think people are still holding on to that name value of Julio Jones, but
I am. I'm guilty of it.
Drop him a little lower.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I put Julio probably around the ninth spot, to be honest. And then F1 McLaurin's got to be way up.
He get bumped. I mean, as far as if I'm taking a wide receiver, McLaurin's nice.
He's very nice because that guy doesn't have a bad week.
He's consistent. Godwin is missing from the list.
Chris Godwin is missing from this list. I agree.
Solid.
They're going
solid too.
I would actually probably, if Chris Godwin were to be in it, I'd probably swap out somewhere. And this is not again anything against Keenan Allen, I'd probably swap out Julio.
You dropped
I
him
probably
off this list?
I probably put Godwin in where Julio's at. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yes, I get Tyreek Hill. He's fast, but the guy doesn't play all season.
Yeah, he never plays a full season. He's always he always gets like a small injury or something.
If he gets the ball, yes, it's more than likely a home. But still.
Speaking of Keenan Allen, what's understood? He put this on his Twitter account. He said, "What's understood don't need to be explained." And at NFL on CBS, there's only two wide receivers who have 400 receptions and 25 touchdowns over the last 4 NFL seasons, and Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins are both in this list. So that's pretty cool, actually.
No Pro Bowls.
No Pro Bowls. One fun subject. Where do you think Antonio Brown goes? Is Tampa gonna keep him?
I think they keep him. Unless he's asking for a ridiculous amount of money.
Right, because it says here, per NFL analysis of free agency, it says, I don't know if they'll do it, but the Chiefs have had internal thoughts about signing and... Well, okay, well, we know where he's going with that.
No drama queen, but I get you.
To the trash can. Yeah, it says, I don't know if they'll do it, but the Chiefs have had internal thoughts about signing Antonio Brown. He would be a massive upgrade over Sammy Watkins, and I actually agree with this. I think the little output that Sammy Watkins gave them, being a fantasy owner of him last year, was so little, and Antonio Brown kept stealing the show over in Tampa Bay when we least expected him to. So I will say, I do agree with that.
That's nasty. Don't do that though.
This is an interesting subject that popped up. What do you think about that Antonio Brown thing? Like, do you think
signing to the Chiefs?
Yeah, between him and Sammy Watkins.
I would hate to see it.
Yeah.
Just because he's still someone you have to cover. Is he still, prime? Like, no, but he can still catch a ball and he's still fast. Like,
yeah.
And then you got Tyreek Hill there just to take off a little. You can't cover them both double coverage.
Right. I agree with that.
And you got Travis Kelce in the middle. God, that would suck.
So this graph
twice a year.
This graph is really interesting. Twice a year. I agree with that. Patrick Mahomes' first 46 starts. Mike Evans was, in fact, a touchdown machine last year. People cannot forget that. He wasn't on that top 10 list, which is kind of highway robbery in a way. Patrick Mahomes, in his first career starts, this is kind of... I snagged this graph, or the screenshot, when they were having kind of the Twitter conversations. For NFL all-time rank, in his first 46 starts, Patrick Mahomes has 38 wins. He is first in the NFL with that. 108.7 pass rating, he's first in the NFL in his first 46 starts. 114 passing touchdowns, first in the NFL. And in 46 career starts, he has 14,152 passing yards, first in the NFL. That's nuts. Brown stole the show in terms of how good he ran routes and like how fast he can get open, but he did not steal the looks away from Mike Evans getting touchdowns. But what I'll say he stole was the coverage from Mike Evans. I think that's exactly why Mike Evans was able to get as open as often as he did. There's been a whole lot of weird conversations about this man right here. Let's see here. As well as how fast he can get thrown off of a team, and you're 100% correct because the guy doesn't know how to stay out of trouble. There is this weird thing that's been going around, System Plus MVP. The Patriots in the past... He's saying no. I just keep saying stop it and no. Can't wait to hear what John has to say about this. System plus MVP. The Patriots and Packers are rumored to be in trade talks for Aaron Rodgers per clutch points in Patriots Nation. Because Aaron Rodgers has not confirmed that he's coming back to Green Bay yet.
Is he supposed to re-sign with them this offseason?
He's been upset with Green Bay.
He has been.
So
it's on Jeopardy now.
Yeah. So I don't think there's a lot of weight to this. I saw this and I just thought it was interesting. What I do think is interesting about it is, I hate to say this, he kind of looks good in the Patriots uniform.
Oh, I hate it. Get that crap out of here.
He actually looks all right in it, but hypothetically, this isn't gonna happen. I don't think this is. He's gonna be back in Green. He's gonna be back in Green Bay next year. He's gonna be still a headache for my Vikings. Say Aaron Rodgers went to the Patriots. How do you think that season goes?
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Him, Coach Belichick. Coach Belichick's the defensive guru, right?
Yeah,
so he's
absolutely.
Gonna be solid. He's gonna be solid on defense. He's gonna take the pressure off. He's gonna make these wide receivers look good. God, dude, this is disgusting.
Yeah, Tom Brady. He's not as good as Tom Brady as we've discussed, but
why does Bill get to have all the cool toys?
Belichick might smile for once. This isn't gonna happen. There's no way. So I really don't believe this is gonna happen. But if it did, it'd be lethal.
Yeah, I can't imagine that smile too on Belichick's face. Like, what I pulled off.
Yeah. The Bengals have announced they released halfback Giovanni Bernard. But I think
where did he end up?
He ended up somewhere. You want to look that up? I can't remember where.
He ended up on Tampa Bay.
Yep, yeah, that's right. He just signed with Tampa Bay. That's right.
Trash.
This is a cool graph here for PPR scoring leagues for fantasy football. So this is good. Christian McCaffrey is in the top spot and number 1 out of the top 10. Dalvin Cook was number 2. Alvin Kamara was number 3. No shock to that. Saquon Barkley, when he played last year, was number 4. Derrick Henry finished around 5th. And you got to remember, it's this PPR, so point per reception. Okay. So these are pass-catching backs. Ezekiel Elliott was 6th. Austin
Trash.
Trash. throw that in the garbage can. We need to get we need to get a trash sound effect.
It's just last season was garbage. I think he can go.
Yeah, I wouldn't risk my draft pick on Ezekiel Elliott, the condition of that team. Austin Eckler in the 7th spot. Aaron Jones was in the 8th spot for PPR.
All right, talk to me from the outside looking in on Austin Eckler. What's your opinion on him?
He's great. He was always like
gold.
He was always the first option, to be honest, that I would look for, like when I had running backs go down. And for it's no secret. Fantasy players, when they get a running back, they're trying to get a guy that's a dual threat in terms of a pass-catching back and also a good runner for yards after contact, yards after catch. Austin Eckler has been excellent at that when he's healthy. So Austin Eckler is very reliable.
Rough hammy split. He had a rough hammy.
Ronathan says he's great. Load will be a 50-50 split. I like that. Aaron Jones is surprisingly sitting in the 8th spot, but he's more of like a Adrian Peterson type running back who's going to be your bell cow. Nick Chubb sitting in the 9th spot, and Jonathan Taylor in the 10th spot. And I think Jonathan Taylor is going to have a really big year. If I could tell any fantasy viewers for a running back, your top 3 on this list are you got to go Cook, Henry, or Taylor if you're looking for a pass catching back. Those guys are monsters at that position.
You're not saying Christian McCaffrey?
I'm not, because he was hurt last year. He was hurt a lot last year. So
in the one game he did play, he goes, "Oh, that number 1 draft pick haunts me to this day."
Yeah, that's where I'm at with it. And I could be completely wrong, but like I'm just going off of last year.
Saquon will not bounce back.
Saquon's not bouncing back, huh? I disagree. I respectfully disagree. I think he'll bounce back. I think he will be upset that he had the year he had last year, and he's going to blow up next year. But CMC, I could definitely see bouncing back, but, my fantasy strategy typically is if these running backs had a really bad injury, didn't play a lot last year, or didn't really, even when they tried to get back on the field and they couldn't, I tend to stay away from those guys. I tend to not really thrive on those guys and rely on them and be like, yeah, okay, I don't like that's who I want. I'm more going reliable and a trustworthy pick. So, and you can't argue that because this year I drafted Dalvin Cook right away because I just had a feeling about him, about how he was gonna go off this last year, and he did. So.
I like Cook. He's been consistent I've never had him. You feared him in fantasy.
You fear that man in fantasy, for real.
Cook is a terrible thing to face.
So talking about streaks, with running backs being successful and bouncing back, teams with the most active streaks of 5+ winning seasons. These are the 3 teams. We have 9 straight winning seasons from the Seattle Seahawks, 8 straight winning seasons with the Kansas City Chiefs. I look for that to keep going, and then 5 straight winning seasons with the Tennessee Titans. And speaking of the Titans, the Tennessee State to name former Titans standout Eddie George as its head coach. George starred for the Tennessee Titans at running back, and he won the Heisman Trophy in 1995 at Ohio State, but does not have any coaching experience. He will replace Ron Reed, who has been with the Tennessee State since 2010. So he's going to be coaching some college ball boys and girls. That's going to be exciting.
Interesting.
And the last graphic that I had that was interesting to pull up was in 2020, Kirk Cousins threw for the 2nd most passing touchdowns and 3rd most passing yards in a single season in Vikings team history. He did this with an offense that ranked 27th in pass attempts last year. So imagine getting that guy an offensive line as we talked about earlier and seeing what he can do with some valid protection. So, yeah. But I think that's all I got. Do you have anything, John?
No, I'm just curious. Right now I'm looking up top 20 running backs in the league, and I think for next time we meet, let's I think we should run through overrated, underrated. I think that'd be kind of fun.
We definitely need to do overrated, underrated, especially with fantasy purposes. I 1000% agree with that, actually.
I think that'd be fun. I think Ronathan had a good time. We should do that.
Yeah. So next week when we do the stream, I think I'm
have
off.
the graphics ready. Have the graphics ready, and then we'll just give our raw, and then our one.
No, we don't get to talk about it before.
I think that'd be fun.
We just list the players, save our opinions for the recording. I like that idea.
Yep, that'd be fun.
So, John, where can people find you? What do you do?
All right, you guys can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/theXSauce. We stream Warzone. I'm learning other games. We're doing some Apex. I got a Red Dead going on. I might even hop on this Red Dead online with the nerd. We're gonna talk about Cowboys.
We're gonna play some poker.
Play some poker. All right. You catch us here next time. When we meet back here next time, we're gonna have draft results. We're gonna have draft reactions. It's gonna be a good time. Stay tuned for our next show.
You guys can find me at Twitch TV /The Avenged Nerd. Twitter is at NerdAvenge, capital N, capital A. Sometimes I do art streams just for fun and do terrible drawings and stuff, and you guys can draw along with. And so I do have an Instagram. It's the Avenged Nerd 2020. And then these podcasts are actually, I'll go ahead and put these in the chat. So there's this one. I have one other one called the Nerd Rebellion Podcast, where we talk about pop culture TV shows. I just released an episode of that. It should pop up in the chat here. We've been discussing Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I've had a busy schedule with a few people talking about that. So the finale just came out, and it was a big finale. So the other thing is Nerd sauce. For some reason, my bot isn't bringing those up. Technical difficulties here. Sorry. Let's pull this up. Oh, that's good. I didn't open it. Okay, so that's up. So now that this is back, this should pop up in a minute here once it gets done loading. But anyways, while it's loading, the podcast for Nerd Rebellion is talking about pop culture, TV shows, and movies such as Marvel, Star Wars, sci-fi, any of that stuff. If you're interested in that, you're in the right place. Let's try this one more time. Worst case scenario, you can find it on Anchor or Spotify or where you listen to your podcasts. So go check those out. It is, again, Nerd Sports Zone with John and Mike on Spotify or the Nerd Rebellion podcast. So go check those out. And if you have any questions, you can find links to them in my Twitch channel as well. But yeah, so that is this week's show. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chilling and talking about some of this stuff. Ronathan, loved having you in here. Please come back, man. We appreciate you. We can probably get you on if you want to. If you seem like you have a good mind about this stuff, we'd love to have you on if you're ever interested in that. Just join the Discord. You can hit the About panels.
Fantasy?
What's that?
Get them in the fantasy league.
Yeah,
start a nerd zone league. That'd be tight.
That'd be kind of great. That'd be a great idea, actually. Okay. I'd be balancing in three teams, but I could try it.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we're gonna just say thanks to the sponsors for the stream really quick, and then we'll go out here. So, and we'll end the recording here. So I first want to thank this new sponsor that I got on the stream. It's called Player One Coffee. It's great coffee for gamers like you or myself. It's really good. I have had a couple cups of it, and I really enjoy it. If you select that link, you can go ahead and check that out. So if you have any late night streams or early work days to get you through it, they have some really awesome flavors that are all video game based. There we go. So here's the links for those podcasts as well. And then also this stream is sponsored by Raise Energy. If you like working out, and you're a jock like me and Sauce are, get our flex on a little bit there. We've both been working out and trying to eat healthier, and I actually use these products for whey proteins. They have energy drinks that have 0 carbs, calories, or artificial dyes, and they actually come in packets or cans, and they have no crash, and they're really good. Great flavors. You can select that link. If you type in code The Avenger, you'll get 15% off your order, so you really have nothing to lose, and help support the stream as well. If you want to join the Discord family, you want to be a nerd, you can jump right in. Also, if you're a streamer, you can select your role, and then I have a bot that shouts you out. So with all that being said, I wanted to say thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.